Hello, all viewers. Welcome to the 54th Khelo Chess India team battle. The battle is going to start in about 5 minutes now. So we have to wait for 5 minutes, and until then, we can just discuss. If you have any questions, you can post in the comment section. I would be happy to answer them all. I can see a comment from Paimon Pai. Hi Paimon, hope you are doing well. Safe at home. Okay, so Paimon Pai, you're asking me, can you make a video on how to install Stockfish 8 on PC? Sure, I can do that. For that, I'll just give you a hint first that you have to install one of the Stockfish 8 directly cannot be used according to me. You have to use one of the third party softwares like Skid, SCID. You can just Google Skid, you can download Skid. In the Skid, there is a ready made Stockfish engine which you can use for free. This software is completely free and you can use it on PC. It also has a very good database that you can use for your study. So just remember the name SCID. Okay, you can download this. I'm mentioning the name in the comment section so that you can get the idea. So we'll be starting this live session very soon, just 1 minute remaining now. And if you want to analyze your games, just let me know. I'll take your games first on top of my list. Okay, so the tournament has begun. Let's see. We have to analyze Super 11's game. That's one of the requests from our tournament players. You can request as well, guys, if you want to analyze your game. So Super 11, let's just check if we can see Super 11 playing against Mobilio. Let's pick up his game. Okay, so here you can see on in the comment section, he has asked us to take his game first. So you can see here, this is the comment. So similarly, you can also post, I'll take your game first. Okay, so we have a game between this. Let's go to the game now. I think it's between Mobilio. Yeah, it's from Prayagraj Future GM's Chess Club, and sorry, Mobilio is from Prayagraj CS, and Super 11 is from Gujarat Lions. So let's quickly check what happened in the opening. F4 was played. Let me just refresh this page. I think there is something wrong with the page. So let me just quickly refresh it. Okay, so let's go to the first move. F4 was played from Mobilio. F4 is called as the bird's opening. So you can also learn this opening if you like to play on the king side more. You can use this opening. This is called as bird's opening. F4 d5 is the normal reply from black side. Knight f3, pawn to c5, pawn to d4, pawn to e6. So pawn to d4 is generally not played uh, in the bird's opening. You got to first play pawn to e3, then you can put the bishop on e2 or d3, and then you can do the castle, and then probably you can play c3 and d4, or even in some cases pawn to d3 is played, pawn to b3 is played, and bishop is played to b2, and this knight can come to the c3 square. From there it can go to e2 and join the kingside attack. Okay, so let's check the next game. Next move, sorry, pawn to e6, not the next game. So pawn to c3, and then knight to f6, bishop to e3, pawn takes, bishop takes, and knight to c6, pawn to e3, bishop to d6, knight to d2, queen to e7, bishop to d3, pawn to e5. This is a risky break actually, yeah. So if pawn takes, pawn knight takes, and then knight takes is not possible because two pieces are supporting it, and this bishop I think will be uh, it will be a good piece after this diagonal is open actually. Let's see what happened in the game. The pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, and castles. So if bishop takes, pawn takes, then white would be happy that he has got ridden of this backward pawn, which is a weakness now, and this is something that black can target in the late middle game. This pawn is going to be the weak pawn which black can target. Okay, so let's check. Bishop to g4, queen to b3, and rook to b8. I think bishop takes e7 was possible here, attacking this rook again, and if rook moves, then bishop can go back to d4. Okay, so queen a4 check was played, bishop d7, queen takes a7, castles, knight to f3, rook to a8, queen to b6, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4. Yeah, queen takes d4 was probably necessary because if e takes d4, it would have been a blunder because of queen e3 check and attacking the bishop. So queen takes d4 was compulsory. And then we have rook e8, rook e1, knight to e4, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, queen takes e4, rook takes e4, knight to d4, and now I think rook can come to, this is a live position in the game, rook can come to e8 and attack this e3 pawn. As I suggested before that this is going to be the target in the black's camp, white's camp. So that's what white is doing, black is doing right now, trying to attack as much as possible in this on this e3 square. I just wanted to check if we, yeah, I think it's 45 minutes by mistake. It has to be 60 minutes, but that's okay. Tournament has started. Okay, so rook takes e4 has been played. Rook takes f5. Okay. So white is not piece down. Still, but white is actually better because he has three connected pawns versus three disconnected pawns of black. Okay, so I think that's a free bishop given by black here. It's a blunder actually. This is something that white should not have done, black should not have done. He has given away the free bishop. So knight takes f5, rook f4, and rook g1 check, king to f7, the knight goes back, and black resigned here. So yeah, so this let's go quickly few moves back. Rook to e4 was played, king d3, and now bishop to f5. This was a blunder, guys. This is not how you should play. You should actually try to support all your pieces. Don't keep any pieces hanging to win. So let's go back to tournament. Let's quickly try to change the timing to 1 hour actually instead of 45 minutes. Let's quickly check if we can change it. Yeah, I think it is giving me the option to change. Save. Yep. Yeah, the time has increased now. That's good. And let's go and check the next game. We have a game between Nicebog and Kati, which is going on. Two good players. Kati is on 20289 rating. It's a great rating actually for a good player. And Nicebog is on 1960, not a bad rating at all. So let's go and check the first few moves. What happened? E4 c6. It's a Karo Khan defense. Pawn to d5, knight to d2, pawn takes e4, knight takes e4, knight to f6, pawn to f3, knight to d7, and bishop to c4, pawn to e6, queen to e2, knight to b6, pawn to c3, bishop to e7, and bishop to b3, pawn to a5, pawn to a4, castles, bishop to g4, g5, pawn h6, pawn to h4. So white is willing to sacrifice a piece here. If pawn takes, then pawn takes, and white will get this beautiful open file, which this rook will dominate for most of the game. And then probably knight take g5 is possible, and even queen f2 and queen h4 can be played to deliver mate on h8. Okay, so knight to d5 was played, bishop was not captured. Pawn takes, and knight to c5. Rook to e8, and bishop comes back to e3 now. Pawn to b6, knight d3. Bishop to f5, and I think this knight e5 should have been played here. This knight would have a very good square on e5. From here, it's attacking this c6 square and also supporting this g4, g5, g6 push. So I think knight e5 was a nice move here. Okay, but castles was played, and I think this will help black to attack quickly now on the queen side. Pawn to g4, bishop h7, pawn to g5, knight to h5. Pawn takes is a good move here. I'm not sure. Pawn takes is met by g6. Okay, so queen to f2. Yeah. Okay, so black won this one, but we have to check the game. What happened in the game? So quickly, let's fast forward to the position that we were in. Yeah, this was the position g5 was played. Queen f. Okay, so knight h5. The threat was to play knight g3. Hence, white played queen to f2. But I think queen to g2 was better here. Yeah, queen to g2. But yeah, queen to g2. Then there is a chance of this discord attack on this bishop. Okay, so queen f2 was played, and then pawn to b4, pawn takes, and pawn takes, and queen takes, and this king is more exposed. This king is more exposed as compared to this king on g8 and white. I think that is the reason why white lost the game here. So king d2 was played, rook to b8, queen to c2, and bishop to b4 check, and I think that's the loss for white. Where he lost his queen. So that's what happens when your king is exposed. So this just going back few moves, the castles, when he played castles, I mentioned that it is not the best move. So this was the position, guys, where the white castled. Instead of castle, I think knight e5 should have been played, or at least g4. Okay, knight e5. I think I'm still in favor of knight e5 because it straight away puts a threat on c6 square. And after c6, I think probably queen c7 is expected. And after queen c7, we can gain some moves here. First play g4, g5. Let him play knight h5. And probably then we can play pawn takes. If pawn takes, then knight f7 is possible. Knight g6 is possible. There were a lot of tactics that this knight could have created on the e5 square. So instead of just putting your king on this pawn storm, we can just try to create some play here, and after you got some attack on the king side, then go for this castle. Yeah, I know that this queen is indirectly attacked by this rook, but still there are a lot of pieces in between. This knight will be on e5, so this will not be an immediate threat, and slowly you can First play g4, g5, even g4, then bishop h7, h5 first, and then probably g5. That can be played. Okay, so let's go back to tournament now. You have to grab that moment wherein you get the chance of attack. You should not miss that moment, guys. Okay, so now let's check the next game. Let's check the game between okay, so we have Uchi Madara from Beat Mindano, and I think this is from Philippines. The team is from Philippines. And we have Randy from Gujarat Lions. So let's check what happened in the opening. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4, H6. So it's an Italian game, guys, and H6 is one of the less played variations wherein black tries to stop all the knight G5 threats, knight G5, knight F7. That's what black stops here by playing pawn to h6. So castles, knight f6, rook to e1, pawn to d6, and now pawn to c3, preparing for this center assault on d4. So bishop e6, bishop to e2, bishop e2. I think this e4 pawn is now hanging, and knight can capture the e4 pawn. But anyways, a6 was played first, pawn d3, bishop e7, knight d2, queen d7, pawn to d4, pawn takes, and bishop to g4. Bishop movement was moving the bishop was one of the requirements of this current position because there is a threat of this d5 pawn, which will give a fork on c6 and the e6 square. So hence this bishop was played to g4, and after bishop g4, white played h3, trying to drive that bishop away. Bishop takes f3, knight takes f3, and I think e4 is now hanging. Knight e4 can be played. It was played in the game bishop d3 and knight f6, queen to c2. Knight b4. Yeah, it's forking right time to fork these two pieces because this bishop is going to be a very nice piece attacking this h7 square. So it's better to get that piece out of the board. So castles and now bishop d2, rook e8, rook c1, bishop f8, queen to b3, pawn to b6, queen to c4, pawn to c5, pawn takes, and bishop to c3, pawn to b5, queen h4, bishop e7, and queen to g3. Now there is a threat of this bishop is nicely placed on, but yeah, b4 is now coming, so this bishop will be disturbed from its natural square, and this queen g7 is a long-term threat. Actually, it's not effective right now, but in long term, black has to take care of this. So b4, rook takes e7, queen takes e7, and rook to e1, knight to h5. Interesting variation here. Okay, knight h5 was played, queen to g4, queen goes back to f8 and bishop to e5. So queen takes h5 was the option here. Yeah, but bishop e5 I think is better because now if knight f6 then this bishop f6 can be played. So pawn to g6 to save the knight and now knight to h4. Now the e1 rook is hanging so white has to be careful here. Into h7. So knight h4, the threat was to capture this probably pawn, but it's not working right now. Knight takes g6, f takes g6, queen takes g6. There is a check, and but this knight g7 will defend everything on the board. So nothing to worry there. King h7 and pawn to f4. Okay, rook to d8, rook to c1, rook to d2, knight to f3, rook takes b2. I think that's a free rook. Yeah, that's a free rook. That's not how you should play. They should not give away these free pieces like this. This rook is given for free. So blunder out there. Queen e7, knight to e5, and knight to f6 now. Attacking the queen. Queen comes back to f3, knight to d7, and this is live position, guys. So this is completely winning for white now. Rook takes f7 should be played, and there will be a check and mate soon. Oh, I think it's a miss from white. So here rook takes f7 should have been played. If rook takes f7, queen takes f7, king h8, and pawn e6 was the check and mate here. Yep, so that's a miss from white side. So bishop c1 was played, queen e7, rook f6. This is live position. Yeah, rook f7, and I think that should be the game now. Rook takes e7 is not available. Oh, it's okay. Okay, rook takes e7 is forced now actually. Rook takes e7 is now forced actually. Now queen takes f7 will be played, and oh, why would you do that? Because this queen b3, hold on guys. So queen b3 is a blunder here actually. Rook takes e7 was forced for white. If queen goes to b3, this queen can take the f7 now. It's a simple game for black then. Pawn e6 is expected, but then yeah, it can be handled out. I think queen e7 can be played back, but that would have been a better position for black to just capture this rook and play against this queen and a pawn. So instead of that, black actually blundered by playing this move. This was not necessary actually. That's time pressure. You can see that the black lost one time, and that's the time pressure why black lost here. Or else he might have found this queen f7 more simple winning move over here. Okay, so let's go back to the tournament. So what happened here? So queen rook d1 check, and this beautiful rook to f1 check was played, uh, giving a discovered check to the king, and then probably this white black had to resign because this rook is now a free rook. So let's go to the next game. Another two good players battling it out. So d4, knight f6, bishop f4, pawn to e6, pawn to e3, pawn to d5, knight to d2, pawn to c5, pawn to c3, knight c6, knight f3, queen b6, queen to b3, pawn to c4, queen to c2, bishop e7, pawn h3, bishop d7, bishop e2, rook c8, and castles, and pawn to e4, attacking this center right away, trying to get a central break. But I think this b2 pawn is hanging now, so probably if d takes e5, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, queen takes b2, rook to b1, queen takes c3, queen takes c3, rook takes b7, and this d7 is hanging, d7 bishop is hanging, so black has to take care of this d7 bishop first. Okay, and so I think there uh, queen will be on c3, black queen will be on c3, white queen will be on e4. So it would be a difficult situation because this c4 pawn will be the weak pawn in black's camp. It will fall very soon. So this, yeah. So d takes c4 is not the best move here. Black played knight to h5, bishop h2, and pawn to g6. Pawn takes, and knight to e5. Just trying to get a good square here on the e5. And knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, knight to g7. That's strange. Bishop takes e5. Okay, that's fine. Knight g7 is strange. I'm not sure why. I think f5 is something that black would like to play now. f5, f4, and f3 attack as much as possible. Hence, knight did not went back to f6. It went to g7, so that this f5 is possible now. So bishop to f3, attacking this weak d5 pawn, and bishop to f5. This queen is under attack. Queen to c1, bishop to d3. I like this black's bishop sitting on this d3 square, controlling all the critical squares here, not allowing the rook to come on these squares. Queen to c6, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and rook takes e7. I think that's a free piece. So whenever you keep your pieces hanging in this way, they are going to fall. So that's something black missed here. E7 bishop was hanging, and bishop takes g7, king takes g7, rook takes e7. It's a simple free piece for white, and I think after this white should win comfortably. So pawn e6, pawn rook to e5, rook to d8, Knight to f1, pawn to f6, rook to e7 check, rook to f7, rook takes f7, king takes f7, and queen h6 I think should have been played here. Just trying to create some chances of king, queen takes f7, king g8 would be played then, and then probably you can just take the rook to the open file. Okay, so queen f4 has been played here, rook to e8, knight to e3, king to g7, bishop takes d5. The d5 pawn was hanging here, so queen moves now, and I think this should be an easy win now for white. Nothing much to play here. So let's quickly fast forward to the decisive moment of the game. Yep, yeah. So this is completely now, this is live position and white is completely dominating. Let's go back and check the next game. Let's check if we have any requests. We already covered Super 11's game. So let's not cover his game again. Let's try to check another game. GM Bobby Fischer, very nice ID here. One of the best players of chess and the most famous of chess is Mr. the one and only great Bobby Fischer. And I hope you all are aware of what happened in 1972 between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. That's one of the greatest matches of the century happened there. It was one of the Cold War games that was happened between US and Russia. So here e4, c5, knight c3. So this probably is intending, white is intending to play this closed system of d3 and then f4, knight f3 and castle. This is called as a Grand Prix system from white side, wherein white does not play d4, he just plays d3 and then he plays f4, knight f3 and castles. So this is also one of the nice ways to play the anti-Sicilian. So this Grand Prix attack is one of the anti-Sicilians that you can use to destroy the Sicilian defense. You can also use Mora Gambit, Wings Gambit, Alapin, and there's Levin Fish also against Dragon. So these are all kind of anti-Sicilians that you can play. Rasolimo attack. So these are not the main lines. Always try to play the side lines to surprise your opponents. Don't let them be in their comfortable position. So let's check what happened in the game. Pawn knight to c6, pawn knight to f3, pawn to g6, castles, bishop g7, pawn to d3. So this is a passive position actually. I don't like this position from white side. It doesn't have any initiative, which will help black to attack, white to attack very soon. So bishop g5, pawn to f6, bishop to f4, and pawn to d5. Yeah, so this will put white in a good, black in a good position. He will have a very good center out there. And even now, actually, black might consider this a6 move, which will force bishop takes c6, and then probably knight takes c6 or even b takes c6 will be playable. This center will be very strong here. Okay, so king to h8 was played, pawn to h3, pawn to a6, bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and rook to b8, b1, not b8, sorry. So bishop f5, knight to e2, pawn to g5, bishop to d2, pawn to g4, pawn takes, bishop takes, and knight to g3, pawn to f5, bishop to f4, knight to g6, attacking this f4 bishop. So queen to d2, and now bishop takes f3, g takes f3, destroying this pawn structure. This is now the weakness on white's camp, and this is something that black has to exploit very soon. So queen to h4, immediately queen joins the attack, and now f4 piece is under attack by knight as well as the queen. So white has to take care of that. So white plays bishop to g5, queen h3 is forced, else the queen will be trapped. And now rook to e6, pawn to f4, rook takes g6. Now pawn to f4 is actually okay. Black wins this game. Let's quickly go back and check. Yep, this was the position, and pawn to f4 was played here. So after pawn to f4, rook takes g6. This knight has to be captured so that the f4 pawn can be captured by the bishop. So white played rook takes g6, pawn takes g3. There is a mate threat on h2, not the mate actually, but this rook can be captured for free. Even this rook can be captured. If this rook is saved now, for example, rook to e6 is not playable, rook takes g6, then probably queen h2 check, king moves to f1 and check as well as queen h1 check is there. Queen can capture this rook. After king comes to e2, we also have this rook e8 check, and just trying to get this king in a very difficult situation. So f takes g3, and then rook to takes c6, and then we have pawn takes f2, queen takes f2, bishop to d4, pinning the queen now. So bishop to e3 has been played, and now I think rook g8 check is decisive. Yep, this is where the white lost the game. So once this king was exposed, actually once this white's pawns were doubled here, uh, f2 and f3, it was easy for black to intrude. So this is what you have to look for. You have to try and destroy opponent's castle as early as possible. Look at these two pawns, f2 and f3, they were weak, and immediately black tried to take the advantage of that. Okay, let's check the next game, guys. Okay, let's check this game. Garv, who is a CM, the candidate master, versus the Super Bohemo. So let's check what happened in the game. E4, E5, E6, D4, D5, Bishop D3. This is again one of the less played variations of French defense, but it's a nice variation wherein bishop can sit on either F3 or D3 squares. So knight F6, bishop to D3, bishop D6, knight F3, knight c6, pawn to c3, castles, queen c2, pawn to e5. Yeah, this break is very much expected in the French defense lines, because there has to be some way to get this bishop out of this of its own dungeon out there. So this bishop has to come somewhere on the g4. So this e5 break is something that you have to learn if you are playing from the if you're playing French from the black side. So bishop to g5, pawn to h6, bishop to h4, pawn to g5, and bishop to g3, pawn to e4 was played. So this is losing for white actually, because after bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, you cannot capture back with the queen. Okay, you capture back with the queen, and then rook e8 is expected. That would lead to a loss probably. Now f5, queen d5 check, bishop e6 can be played, and after queen moves, f4 can be played to trap the bishop out there. So white would play a bishop down, but look at the black's king. There is no shelter for black's king. So if white is able to intrude somehow in the on the black's castle side, then white might be able to at least get a draw here. So castles, pawn takes g3, pawn takes g3, and even here I think f takes g3 should have been tried at least, so that you get some open file here to attack the black's king. So pawn takes, and now b7 is also hanging. This is the live position. So all the viewers out there, just make sure that you click the like button and share and subscribe to the channel as much as possible. If you have any questions out there, just put in the comment section. I would be happy to answer